Pleasant Hill. What comes to mind when you hear this name? I think of a hill blanketed by a thick peace and serenity. However, I'm also unsettled by such a name. I imagine a hill that's shrouded in this unwelcoming silence, as though the ground on that hill carries a much darker and tragic history than its name would suggest. Pleasant Hill is also the name of WHATUPRG's debut EP. With its ambiguous cover art, will Pleasant Hill stay true to what the name implies, or am I right in being unsettled? Let's take a look into the quiet abyss that this EP seems to project and see for ourselves. As you might expect or hope for with projects nowadays, Pleasant Hill makes for a very short listening session, consisting of just 7 songs. Pleasant Hill also happens to live up to its name, in part, with songs that seem relatively comfortable and fun in nature at first. For example, the lead single, West Side, has WHATUPRG's alter ego, known as Little Holy, letting loose on the track. Little Holy talks about a number of things in a lighthearted manner, whether it be the way he goes about life, a cute girl he knows, or how he deals with haters. However, the song takes a turn towards the second verse, with Little Holy giving some deeper lines in Spanish. He talks about having been destined as a child to be a son of God, which is unusually insightful given the initially lighthearted vibe of this song. He also explains how unconcerned he is about his enemies, going as far as to say that God is preparing a table before them. Finally, the song seems to reveal that it's not all harmless fun, with an unsettling twist at the end that undoes the whole effect of the song. Little Holy, and by extension WHATUPRG, are not really as unbothered and carefree as this song initially makes them seem. The song's ending outright implies that the happy and God-loving nature of West Side is all a facade. It's duality, and duality is very much a persistent theme within this project. The fact that WHATUPRG has an ultra-confident alter ego as seen in the song Little Holy speaks to this, or even the way West Side so dramatically switches up in mood. I think the very title of this project also plays on this theme of duality. As I mentioned in the intro, there's something about Pleasant Hill that sounds simple and peaceful, but there's also something about that name that speaks to false serenity, as though it sounds too good to be true. It does seem that many of these songs, true to that duality theme, seem to deal with WHATUPRG's inner turmoil by way of Little Holy. The journey for Little Holy appears to fully start in the song named after him. In the intro, someone is heard explaining that no matter what you do for someone, they will never owe you anything. On top of that, no one cares about what's best for you more than you ever will. RG internalizes this advice to the point where an alter ego is manifested, one who is very headstrong, relying only on himself and what he thinks is best. Little Holy is also prideful, preferring to be acknowledged as a big homie. Throughout these songs, he turns out to be oddly reminiscent of what we would call a Sunday Christian. Christians who claim closeness to God but really only have knowledge of him. This alter ego carries over into the previously discussed West Side, and I would say that it's at that unsettling ending of the song that we see Little Holy reach and simultaneously fall from his self-sufficient peak. We could see this crash coming from the very beginning as well, with the cautionary song Yellow Paint. Much like yellow tape, or the idea that yellow in general speaks to possible danger, this song has WHATUPRG playing with fire, so to speak. It's reminiscent of the temptress spoken of in Proverbs 7. RG is overall unaware of that which seeks to destroy him, and one of his lines mentions having already given his youth away to this embodiment of sin and temptation, a line that could be interpreted in many ways, both figurative and literal. This figure ultimately tells RG that she can take him quite far into a fantasy-like life, while slyly mentioning that he could very well die as per the cost for this pleasure. Indeed, no song is without its significance from a thematic perspective, even Rose Gold. Given that Rose Gold comes straight after Little Holy, we can see this song as Little Holy being fully convinced and right in his own mind. He sees that, no, he doesn't truly need anyone, He came up by himself and can continue going up by himself. After this, we come back to the ever dubious West Side. This song absolutely marks the downfall of Little Holy, as we see him spiral into a pitch black sea of depression within the song Role Models. It's with Role Models that we see the biggest character flaw of Little Holy. He's been trying to adorn his outer self with accolades and worldly marks of success, while simultaneously stripping his inner self of spiritual beauty, turning his soul into a shell of what it used to be. Not only are Little Holy's role models broken, but so is he. And it's a subtle message to those who look up to him, and speaking more directly, those who look up to RG himself. The EP wraps itself up with Exit 104 and Lovely. Exit 104 is a foreboding song, and we see our symbolic person from Yellow Paint attempting to fulfill her pact with WHATUPRG. While initially more similar to a beautiful temptress, this figure now reeks of a Grim Reaper's essence, as Little Holy explains that she's trying to ensure RG dies a slow death. Once an alluring promise of an exciting life, Little Holy's tempter has become a stalking predator within the darkness that he's fallen into. It seems as though Little Holy comes to a new state of awareness in the third verse, however, calling out this tempter and explaining how he's caught wind of her true motives. The song ends on a sobering note as he recalls King Solomon having said something about a similar situation involving a temptress. The closing piece to this story is found in the final song, Lovely. God, who has been watching and thinking of Little Holy and RG since birth, now calmly speaks his mind on RG's situation. As you would expect from God, he's fully aware of RG's sins and the darkness that he has waded into, but God is also fully ready to welcome RG into his loving embrace and forgive him. The song has a certain sadness to it, as God laments the irony of RG's toxic heart, combined with the fact that he runs from God as though God were the poisonous one. Lovely is particularly notable for the final image it leaves us with after listening to the EP. We see duality at its strongest. On one hand, we have a small, dual-minded but simple and toxic being. This little being is running from a big, simple but complex and perfectly pure being. On top of that, God ultimately embraces not just WHATUPRG but also Little Holy. That is, God loves RG as a whole, not just for the good or more desirable parts of him. RG and his dark alter ego, though dual in nature, are loved fully by one God. This message extends to every single person listening as well. All of us have a Little Holy in some sense, a part of us that is flesh-driven and prone to strike out against God in its own way. And it doesn't matter how far any part of us tries to run from God, whether it's ourselves or a subconscious alter ego. God is always waiting, fully ready to embrace us in spite of our toxic hearts. It turns out that my hunch about Pleasant Hill was right, partially. From the beginning, I imagined some green grass atop Pleasant Hill, grass that conceals a disastrous past full of sins and scars that come from playing with fire. However, I was also partially wrong. Pleasant Hill is not just the place where sins and hidden scars are covered up. The green grass on the hill also hints at growth and new beginnings. God is willing to work with us and make the grass grow on top of our unpleasant foundations to truly make it into what else but a pleasant hill. From a thematic perspective, this EP is undeniably strong with Little Holy as its distinguishing feature, and rather than relying strictly on lyricism, it prefers to use broadly painted intersecting pictures to create one big impression. As this EP appears to focus heavily on themes, the production fittingly makes itself complementary to that end goal. The songs that focus primarily on Little Holy all have sounds that bring out particular elements of his character. Little Holy as a song has an aggressively fast beat that feels somewhat merciless, fitting the track's lyrics. Rose Gold's bouncy and booming sounds play up that spunky sense of independence which the song's words ooze with. West Side's production hits the peak of nonchalance and confidence, and is particularly notable for its strong and rhythmic Hispanic influence. Role Models in Exit 104 sound as depressed as the words themselves tend to be, speaking to that quiet place of reflection in the midst of our depravity and dual-mindedness. Of course, Yellow Paint won't go unmentioned here, as the song's production gives off some prominent but anxiety-inducing synth and rock-like vibes. Lovely as the final song has a very consistent and stable rhythm that speaks volumes as to God's unchanging nature, as well as a distinct serenity that is missing from all of the other songs. The drastic change in atmosphere between the other songs and this one in production make for a clever shift from Little Holy's perspective to that of God's. Considering all of this, the production is satisfyingly cohesive with the EP's ambitious themes and ideas. I would say that overall the writing is stronger than the production, but it's not a bad thing. This approach ensures that the writing doesn't get overshadowed by any beats that are too powerful. This EP sounds good, but it's not the sort of project that's best enjoyed by picking out which songs sound better, as the heavy message it brings is more so felt in the lyrics. There's a whole lot of things to miss with this EP that can make it lose the majority of its intended impact. Each song, viewed by itself, can feel enigmatic and disjointed at times. The production varies noticeably between each song, potentially making for difficult transitions with songs like Yellow Paint and Little Holy coming back to back. Finally, the Spanish verse in West Side is an important matter because many listeners will hear this song without knowing any Spanish. Direct translation can hurt the symbolism of the verse, and while it's not impossible to get the creative meaning, some English listeners may simply feel a sense of disconnect with the song and its message. All of these things might add up to make an unpleasant view of Pleasant Hill, but true to the EP's theme of duality, there's another way of seeing things with this project. The fact that it has a short listening session allows for multiple journeys through the track listing, so that listeners can gain a better understanding with each playthrough. Each song also does well to contribute to the bigger picture overall, and so nothing feels like just filler or a banger. The variety within the production makes it easy to note when a shift in the story's mood or atmosphere has occurred, as opposed to the more ambiguous, abstract, and hard to read nature found in the lyrics. Last but not least, the Spanish verse in West Side is still important. While some may shrug at it, others will see it as something worth enjoying. True artists will share their inner heart and self within the music, and the benefit we get as listeners is that we get to see or experience something new. In the case of RG, many of us, myself included, got to temporarily experience another culture within the song's production and another way of communicating within the song's Spanish. For those who take an interest in other cultures and languages, this song offers a glimpse into why exactly it's so fun to do that. These are all good things, but make no mistake, the writing and thematic prowess of this EP stands well above its other assets in my opinion. It makes the project very much worth replaying, as well as providing some deep discussion topics. Think about it, what would happen if you asked a close friend what their own version of Little Holy looked like, let alone asking yourself? Qualities like these give projects a lasting lifespan in my opinion, and I ultimately see this as a standout EP and debut for the strength in its literature. The mileage to be gotten out of Pleasant Hill is very dependent on how willing you are to immerse yourself in the music, but those are just my thoughts. What did you guys think of this EP, all in all? Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching everyone, and until next week, peace out.